Tales of Mithrym.
At the Sign of the Running Horse, narrated by Dolynuik, Part 1, Long March. Lieutenant Elvin Ranley was starting to feel light in his head as he passed the last of the town buildings. He looked over his shoulder one last time as he trudged along the horse-beaten path alongside a narrow stream. With one long glance, he took in all the brown and decaying features of the small townscape. For a moment, he thought the path and the other buildings were all spinning round and round as they melted into the sinking sun of the evening sky. He gave a long sigh and continued walking. He could not stop here. He did not want to. Elvin found it peculiar when he realized that he had not really wanted a lot of things these past few months, like the battle dress uniform he wore. He wanted to take it off, make a fire, and throw it in. He laughed a hollow laugh to think that this outfit, the long berry-red coat, the black shirt and trousers, that had given him so much purpose and respect from his fellow soldiers and command over his platoon, felt so worthless, as if it had become a knife without a blade, a burden. But he swallowed the urge to be rid of it, tightened his grip on the straps of his pack, and carried on. He did not have a particular goal in mind, but he had realized that he was not moving aimlessly. He was walking in the direction of another small town named Crail, his home, or, at least, it had been his home. But it felt empty now. Elvin's heart did not want to get back there too soon. He was only going that way because his feet needed a direction. So they kept stomping the earth. Suddenly, he noticed that the narrow stream that had been running alongside him, with its cool, clear smell and fresh breeze, had vanished some way back. The path he was on now led into a gloomy forest. The sun would soon set, and darkness would come. Who knew how long this path into the forest was going to stretch for? And even if he could stick to it, would he find a place to rest for the night before the darkness fell completely? Elvin sighed heavily as he touched the hilt of the sword strapped at his waist, and he entered the forest. If the night came, he thought to himself, and he still could not find a place to rest, then he might have to make use of that sword. He was already rethinking his decision to not stop at that last town. What was it called? Shelmere. That was it. He chided himself. This is what happens when you switch off your mind and drift. But it was okay because Elvin did not really care if he couldn't find a place before nightfall. If he had to, he could spend the night in that forest. After all, even a jungle in the middle of nowhere was more desirable than the battlefields that had been his home for the past, what would it be, 4 years, 5 years? Ever since his mother and father had died, Ian rest their souls, and he had enlisted in the king's army to fight the motherless horde from Gallio. He had met 1 or 2 people on the way from Shelmere, but there was no one at all on this path through the forest. In the shadows, hidden creatures were groaning and unseen insects were buzzing. Elvin pressed on, putting one foot in front of the other, keeping his mind together and ignoring his crying muscles. He had been walking since the morning and had only stopped once to eat. But he had been on the road for over 2 weeks all told. He had started from Tynesshire, where he had last been healed from his injuries and was then discharged and dismissed. Before Tynesshire, he was at the front lines, leading his renowned platoon as an honorable lieutenant. He didn't know why he was walking all this way. After leaving the healing station, he couldn't deny the void in his heart. It was like the disease that had taken mother and father had eaten them up. The void was eating up Elvin too, from the inside out. Maybe he was walking to punish himself. He'd done that to new recruits before. Why not give himself a taste of it too? Maybe he was just desperate to leave something behind that he just could not shake off. The forest had grown abysmally dim. The croaking and groaning and clicking and buzzing of living things was growing louder. Soon, though, another sound was floating in from somewhere down the road. Elvin followed the sound hopefully, and soon found a large tavern in a clearing to the left of the road. He was quite surprised to find such a big building in such a dense forest, but he felt so relieved at the same time. Surely here he could find some decent lodging for the night. It would at least have to be better than sleeping outside. Sounds of drinking and eating were coming from a large room that looked as if it filled the ground floor. There was a stables off to one side, but as he did not ride a horse, he left the path and headed straight for the main doors. The sign above the entrance showed a black stallion, rearing in full gallop. The smell of ale, meat, and bread came out to meet him. A sense of calm returned to him as the sound of gossiping voices and laughter filled his ears. But before he pushed the door, something made Elvin pause. He felt as if he had hit an invisible wall. His mind flooded with dark memories of the past years, but the feeling lasted for no more than a fragment of a second, and right now he was too tired to care.
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.